What's happening, players? My name's Ryan Wright.
And I'm Jerry.
Bet that threw you off. Okay, so we just saw The Hateful Eight, Tarantino's 8th film. Yeah. Coincidence of the title? I think not. Anyway, The Hateful Eight, we're going to be doing a spoiler talk about the film because I really feel like a lot of the criticism is really in the details of the movie. But beyond the criticism, but even to explain why there's parts of it that I love, I have to go into detail about.
Of course.
So we'll see what we can tell you without spoiling anything. The cast, fucking fantastic. Everyone's good. Great. What's cool about the characters is that they are what Tarantino set out to do, which was make sure none of them are likable. Like, they're not like characters you can really root for. Like, I was talking with Veronica on the way back, and I was like, man, this is just a really nasty film where these characters, they're enjoyable and they're likable in their own way, but they're technically just not good people, you know?
They're the difference between enjoyable and likable. It's like a lot of them are fun to watch, but none of them are technically likable people because they've all done something terrible either before the events of the movie or during the events of the movie, and in most cases both.
What I love is that, okay, there's this book called Save the Cat, if you guys haven't heard about that. What they talk about with dislikable characters in this screenwriting book, and I notice almost every movie does the trick of Save the Cat. They'll take, okay, this is a bad character we're going to focus on as the main protagonist of the story. Let's have him do something nice in the beginning, that way we know, that way we can root for him, you know?
You establish a moral code so that we can identify.
Yeah, this movie doesn't do that. This movie...
Well, yeah, and it plays with your perceptions of the characters because it'll introduce certain people certain ways, and then, you know, some characters early on, some characters much later on, you'll find out that they're not so savory after all. Who you're clinging to kind of changes over time, and that's part of the fun of this movie is sort of as things unfold figuring out who you dislike the least, like who you can still be on board with and how that allegiance changes.
That's it. Like, I didn't walk out of it going, who do I like the most? The question that I was asking was, who is the least bad out of everyone in the spoiler review? I will reveal who I think is the least bad and why.
And I feel like different people probably will get different answers to that question.
And I love that. This film is a debate that you're going to have. It's called The Hateful Eight. They are so easy to hate on.
Good title.
I could see people hating this movie because of how nasty the characters are. Like, they're not good people at all. And the film is fucking violent and shit.
It is when it gets there. It has some very violent moments.
And there's always a violent undertone to everything because of the nastiness.
Yeah, because it's nasty. It's not so nasty. Like, there's still lots of humor. Like, it's still snappy. It still has rhythm. And there are characters who are still charming and fun to watch. So it's not like, you know, watching... I don't know what a good example is, but it's not like watching something that's like in your face ugly the whole time.
You know what it kind of reminded me of?
What?
You remember in Inglourious Bastards, if you guys have seen the movie, where the Bastards and Michael Fassbender are posing in the pub? That was like a 20-minute sequence, and it was like a build-up sequence. Like, and that's kind of what I feel like this movie was acting like.
Yeah.
Where it's a tension build-up. Like, it's primarily dialogue in the first like hour and a half of the film. It's a cool build-up to what's gonna come, because this movie, if you watch, is it only in the 70mm version? From when we saw it, I don't know if it's in every theater, but there was an intermission.
No, it's not.
Okay, so it's not in every theater. Yeah, there's an intermission, and the intermission, brilliant to have. Because halfway through that film, I saw everyone talking about it in terms of what's gonna happen next, they think, or how are you feeling about the film so far? What do you like? What do you not like? Like, you're getting opinions from everyone based off the intermission of just the first half, because so much happens.
Well, that's a cool thing about Tarantino specifically, and you know, some of his cohorts. You know, everybody knows Tarantino knows films and knows film history, and he's giving us something that is older that we, you know, don't get anymore. Like, the 70mm roadshow cut of this movie, at least, there are no trailers. There's just an overture at the beginning of I presume, Ennio Morricone's music, and then it launches into the movie. Then there's intermission, like you would see with the old epics, or you know, old movies like Ben-Hur and stuff like that, you know, or the old westerns. Some of them. That's a really cool thing to get now that we don't get anymore. So that was just a dazzling thing to go do.
It really plays out like a play.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Like, I could totally see this being on the stage one day. And I think Tarantino talked about possibly doing that.
Oh, so I can definitely see that. I mean, it all mostly takes place in one location, 2 locations, I guess you'd call it, but they're all kind of contained, and it's a lot of people talking about stuff, you know?
I was thinking, like, there's just certain scenes they could cut out.
Or just stage differently.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
All you gotta do is light a different side of the stage.
Yeah. One thing that we were talking about was I wouldn't consider it one of my favorite Tarantino films in terms of just my initial feeling. That might change. Because this is a film that you have to absorb over time.
We left this an hour ago, and it's dense. Like, it doesn't feel like it. Like, Tarantino knows rhythm, and he knows how to build and you know, crescendo, and then, you know, rebuild and stuff like that. You know, tension and rhythm and all that. But, you know, we did just leave this an hour ago, and it's a dense movie. So I don't know where this is going to fall in terms of my favorites.
But that's what I really like about this particular Tarantino flick. I feel like he's really evolved as a filmmaker. Like, behind the camera. His writing has always been fucking incredible. His directing's always been wonderful, too.
It's more refined, yeah.
But yeah, it's more solid. This film, along with the script, of course you're gonna feel those moments where you're like, that's Tarantino right there.
But less.
But way less.
It's a little less of, like, you know, if you look at the mid-period films like Kill Bill and stuff like that, you know, it's a lot less of, like, this is a reference shot and that's a reference shot and here's, you know, filmmaking trope that we would have seen.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm sure there are still tons of them, but they're a little more subtle. The hand is a little more steady. You know, it's a little less bombastic.
I felt like I'm really in this world of what's going on with these main characters. So I like I like the fact that I never got pulled out thinking this is like a Tarantino touch here and there. Yeah. I was always immersed. And I feel like Tarantino has created a film where people will debate about it. You know, like usually you walk out of a Tarantino film and everyone's like, that was awesome.
People debate Tarantino. I mean,
I don't think as much as they're going to debate this particular movie from him. Because these characters, I've seen everyone talking about it, like how they should feel about the movie. I feel like people will walk out less inclined to know how they'll feel about it. Because there's really no good main character.
Yeah, who is the protagonist?
Yeah.
You know, at different points, a protagonist or an antagonist in some way.
You're just sort of watching this unfold, you know?
Yeah.
And that's another thing that
you're watching a plan not go according to plan. Like, which is one thing Tarantino's great at doing.
And I feel like an element he explored was the element of mystery.
Yeah.
And I like seeing Tarantino's take on that. Because it kind of reminded me of Clue.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had this realization. It's like most movies we see now focus on how to make the plan work.
Yeah.
And what Tarantino seems to do differently than a lot of mainstream cinema is going, here's a plan. What do these people do if the plan doesn't work?
Yeah.
Because most of his movies have that somewhere, you know, and then the plans either work or don't.
Like Inglourious Basterds has. That pub scene I was talking about.
Yeah, or Reservoir Dogs is all about a plan that doesn't work. Or Pulp Fiction has, you know, plans within it that don't work. And, you know, you can pretty much point to that in all of them. And then, you know, whoever your protagonists are, you know, succeed to varying degrees.
But Reservoir Dogs, I feel like those characters are way easier to establish why you like them. These characters are much more questionable to me.
Well, because this movie lets you see pretty much everybody do or confess to doing something terrible. Whereas there's something about, you know, in American morality, it's like Reservoir Dogs is about, you know, a heist gone wrong. It's less of a stretch for us to identify with, like, people robbing a jewelry store than it is to identify with, you know,
nasty
people we know who have killed lots of people or who are very unsavory. These are all likable guys and they're robbing a jewelry store, so it's like we can skip a certain level of chastisement.
Totally. For
characters like that.
Yeah, I think the film's totally worth watching because I would love to see the amount of different opinions this film has. And I'm sure which character people felt was the least bad and stuff. Because that's a beautiful thing about this film. That it's so violent, gritty, like it so honors the title, yet you're like, fucking does it well. You know, it honors that. It's kind of how I felt about The Devil's Rejects. Like, this is a nasty, violent film, but it's so committed to what it's doing.
Yeah, totally.
That I like it.
What it's doing.
Yeah, I love it when they don't hold back.
I guess you could also debate this, but the film is sort of not telling you that you should like any number of people. At least when I left, I was sort of like, the only people I feel like I could probably like are like Minnie.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like a couple people, like a couple of the supporting characters who we don't really get to spend much time with. Like, those are the only people I would guess I might be able to like, you know, without a big butt.
But like, having them just enhances the story of these characters as to how disgusting they are. Rating time, people. I give this film 4 out of 5 Hateful masturbates. Sessions.
I guess.
Rhymes
so.
better.
Yeah, why not?
Hateful 8, hateful masturbate.
It's
There's more syllables.
Yeah, it's 2 extra syllables.
Whatever. Give it a rating.
I don't know. I hate boiling things down into numbers, because I don't know yet. Oddly enough, my least favorite thing to do when I've left a movie is talk about it right away. So
Me too.
I don't know.
I usually ruminate on it for a long time before I start speaking about it.
And this is such a dense movie that I don't know what I would number it.
Do people expect that out of you? Because I notice whenever I'm really impacted with a film, whether it be good or bad, I'm not talking about it. I'm really just quiet and thinking about it. And the people are always like, "What's wrong? Did you like the movie?" They expect me to just start chatting about it all the time.
You just had an experience of some kind, and depending on the weight of the movie, it might take more time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Go see. I think this is, if you like a Tarantino movie, then go see it. It's a 3-hour Western paranoia flick. With a lot of heavy. So
a lot of heavy.
I don't know. I mean, it's very different from most things we see nowadays. So I would just say to go see it. Because anytime I try to zero in on a number right now, I don't know if it's the right one. So
it's awesome-tacular. Anyway, guys, listen. If you guys want to subscribe to the channel, you can click this button right here. I'm putting it in front of me now.
Oh, okay.
It became smarter because you can barely fit it here.
Yeah.
Reasons to Jerry, Dank-ass Stubs on this channel. Hosted by said Jerry Bear.
Yeah.
Find out what the playlists are about. I want to mention this again. There's a Christmas announcement video we put out.
Yeah.
Been getting a lot of submissions for it, and I want more submissions. More. Veronica the other day was like, "Can you handle so many people submitting?" And I said, "Yes." So submit what I'm talking about in that video.
Yeah, go check it out.
Yeah, get views on that video now. That's what you do. Smart marketing. Direct them to another video of yours.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, YouTube Creator Studios taught that.